So today is activity 11. And activity 11 is all about congruent triangles. So we know what triangles are. We know the congruent symbol looks like that. That means same size and shape. Congruent, same size and shape. So let me show you something. Nothing you need to write for now. If I take this triangle here and I copy it, make another copy just like it, I now have two congruent triangles. You'll notice if I went ahead and labeled these, angle A matches exactly this angle right here, and angle B matches exactly this angle here, and angle C matches this one. So A matches with angle, we'll call it D, F. Those markings show what match. So angle A and D are exactly the same. Angle B and E are exactly the same. And C and F are exactly the same. You can see they're the same because when I overlap them, oh, C went with it. When I overlap them, they are exactly the same size. So you would be able to write what's called a congruent statement. You don't need to write it, just watch. We know that triangle ABC is congruent, exactly equal to triangle DEF. Now the order I wrote these is very important. Notice where A is, angle A and D are the same. So they're both in the same spot. They're both listed first. Angle B matched with angle E. Those were alike exactly. So I write them in the same order. And then, of course, angle C and angle F are congruent to one another. So the order in which I write this congruent statement is important because it tells me what letter here corresponds with what letter here. Now let's work on our notes. Number 1. In the figure, triangle RST is congruent to triangle XYZ. This congruent statement is very important. It's telling me the order. It's telling me angle R is the same or congruent to angle X, angle S and Y match up or are congruent, etc., etc. So find each of the following if possible. We want to find the measure of angle X. How big is angle X if possible? Okay, so angle X is listed first. That means angle X matches angle R. Do we know either of those? No, we don't. So it's impossible to tell how big angle X is. So we'll write not possible. Next, they would like to know how big YZ is. Let's find YZ. That's a side. So if I have side YZ, which in my picture is right here, and maybe we're not sure which side that corresponds to over here. We're not supposed to guess, so don't just try to eyeball it and guess. YZ, you use this statement up here. YZ is the last two letters listed, so that would have to correspond with side ST. Here's ST, so it actually is 15 centimeters. They match. Those are congruent. The next one, the measure of angle T. Here's angle T. We don't know how big it is. But we do know, according to this congruent statement, angle T, last letter, has to match or be congruent to angle Z. Those match. So even though T wasn't listed, we know it's the same as angle Z, so 47 degrees. This statement up here is used for all of these questions. We're not trying to look at the picture too much and guess. Let's look at the next one. We're trying to find how big side XZ is. Here it is in the picture. Again, don't guess what side it goes with. Look at your statement up here. XZ, here's X, and here's Z. So what does that correspond with over here? RT. Here's RT. Do we know how big RT is? Nope. So do we know how big XZ is? Nope. We write not possible. So it's kind of like a matching game. If you want something, look up here and see what it matches with because the order matters. Number 2, notice we don't even have a picture here. We've been given, again, what we call a congruence statement, a statement that tells me what is congruent to what. Complete the following. We want to know what QR is congruent to. So here's Q and here's R. What does that match up with? HJ. That's my answer. Next one. What is GJ congruent to? So here's G and here's J. What does that match up with? PR. Okay, our next one, angle R. Let's find angle R. It's listed last, so that has to go with the last one, angle J. And then we have angle G. G is listed first, so that goes with whatever is listed first over here. So that's angle E. Notice all of our answers are letters. There's no numbers. When you see the congruent symbol, you want to put the letters it's congruent to, not necessarily a number that goes with it. If it ever says measure of angle T, then we want the number. If it just says angle T is congruent to, then you're going to put whatever angle letter goes with it. Number 3, we have yet another congruent statement and a picture. Here's what we know. Find the length of AB. So here it is in my picture. Some people like to look over here and say, oh, it's equal to 18, and others say, no, it's 22. We should not be guessing. You should be using this statement. This tells you exactly what goes with what, especially if something's not drawn to scale. So let's find AB and see what it matches with. AB, first 2 letters, that has to go with DF. Those first 2 letters. So what's D to F? 18. All right, B. Find the measures of all angles in triangle DEF that are possible. Okay, so let's see if we know the measure of angle D, the measure of angle E, and the measure of angle F. Let's see which ones we know. Angle D is the same as angle A. Here's D, it matches with A. Oh, so we do know angle D. It's also 39 degrees. Angle E. No guessing. Look where E is. E is the last letter. So that goes with the last letter, angle C. We don't know either of those, so we just say not possible. Now angle F. F is the middle of the 3, so that has to be the same as the middle of the 3, angle B. And we actually don't know that one either, so not possible. Okay, part C. What is the perimeter of triangle DEF? Perimeter. Distance around the figure. Write that down. People forget what perimeter means. The distance around a figure. So if I have a figure with 3 sides, I add the length of all 3 sides. If I have a figure with 7 sides, I add up how big each of the outside pieces are. So I want to find the perimeter of DEF. So let's go around the outside of DEF and add those up. This side is 18. This side is 22. And this side is ED. And we don't know how big that is. Maybe we can figure out how big ED is. Let's see what it goes with. Here's E and here's D. ED goes with CA. Do we know how big CA is? Oh, we do. Those match up. So this is also 33. So now we can find the perimeter. We can walk around the outside and add up all 3 outsides is the perimeter. Let's add those up. 18 plus 22 plus 33. It is 73 inches. It says explain how you know, so take a minute and explain how you got ED. ED. Remember, ED was congruent to CA. And so that means they are equal. And CA was 33, so that means ED is also 33. Number 4. If 2 triangles are congruent, can you conclude that they have the same perimeter? Why or why not? I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think and write down your answer for 4. Here's a picture that might help you. Let's say I'm dealing with this triangle. If I have another triangle that is congruent to that, congruent means exactly the same size and shape. So if this triangle is congruent, all the sides have to be the same. So this is also 3 and 4 and 6. How do I find the perimeter of this one? I add 3 plus 4 plus 6, which is 13. How do I get the perimeter over here? I add all the sides. 3 plus 4 plus 6. Won't I always be adding the same 3 numbers? So if this triangle has 3 sides, and this triangle has the same 3 side lengths, and perimeter is just adding up the sides, and they happen to be the same, then yes, the perimeter is always going to be the same. Go ahead and summarize that. Okay, last question for part 1 of the notes. Number 5, is it possible to draw 2 congruent triangles so that one is acute and one is right? Why or why not? Think about that. Maybe draw a picture, write your thoughts down. The answer is no. Let me explain. If I have a right triangle, that means it has to have one right angle. And if I have an acute triangle, acute triangles have no right angles. If it did have a right angle, it would be called a right triangle. So acute triangles have only acute angles. If it had an obtuse angle, it would be called obtuse triangle. If it had a right angle, it would be called a right triangle. So it has no right angles. So it would be impossible to put this one on top of this one exactly, making them congruent, if this one has a right angle and this one does not. It would not overlap perfectly because one has a right angle and one doesn't. That gets us through half of the 11-1 notes. So that should get you through half of your homework. So just do the first page front side of your homework for tonight.